I looked at maybe 10 videos in the last week on content aware, and you can find them right on LinkedIn. So I would encourage you, if you want to learn more about photography, if you want to learn about taking pictures of children, or if you want to take portraits, or if you want to do landscape, whatever you want, it's on LinkedIn. You just have to type it in. And so it's a great resource, and I would highly recommend it. All right, so I before we started, I wanted to just tell them about that one class that's coming up, and about the resources that are available here through the library. We didn't start the presentation, so maybe you could introduce that.
Okay.
And Martha, I'm going to hand over to you.
Okay, well, we had a first of what we hope to be many challenges. I guess we've had one before, have we?
Yeah.
And then the yearly one we do with the photo owners. That's a challenge too.
Yeah, that's a competition.
Yeah, it's more of a competition. Yeah.
And so the idea is to learn or be reminded of something that's a little bit new for you, and to go out and see what kind of pictures you can get in a certain amount of time. In this case, it was a challenge to take photographs of what our speaker called lost places, which were not just places, but places and things, and I don't know what all, but it concentrated a lot on discarded things, or discarded even, I think you mentioned ideas at one point. So, you know, if you could show something that was no longer wanted and was just there in your environment, whether to be helpful or not. And so we got quite a few pictures of things from just 6 different people. So I guess it wasn't a big draw this time. Like I said, the time was short, so I think that might have been part of it. But we got some good pictures of lost places and things here. And I guess I'll start with Al. And Al, would you like to come up and tell us about your photo?
I cheated a little. We go to this first one. This was not taken recently. This was taken on a trip to Scotland several years ago. But it definitely typifies the lost places or abandoned places. This is Ardwick Castle, and in the background you can see an abandoned house as well. This is in the Scottish Highlands. Okay, and this really isn't abandoned, but I like this is the back side of the Orpheum Theater downtown. If you see a lot of old painted signs that were on buildings all over the place. It's kind of, there's actually, I think on Flickr, they have a whole category for these kinds of things that you can put photos up on. Okay, next one. And this is downtown, the eyesore, I call it the eyesore downtown, MJ Reed Jewelers, abandoned shop right downtown. For some reason, they just pay taxes on it and make it look like crap, so. Okay, next one. So this is a house out in rural Champaign County. I just happened upon it by accident, actually, yesterday. And I said, oh, that's a good, that fits right in.
Feel free to ask Al any questions as we go on.
Yeah, I guess one thing that I thought with a lot of these photos too is that the abandoned idea, lost places, black and white seemed like the way to go rather than color. So the rest of these are in black and white, or actually, I've got a couple in sepia, which I'll show you also. Okay, next. Here's an old corn crib, I guess you'd call it. It's not really a barn. And I've kind of watched this deteriorate over the years.
Is that one of the ones that had a twin on the other
Yeah,
side of the road?
yes, there is one on the other side, almost exactly. There's a tree has grown up in front of it, or actually several, so that you can't really see the building at all. So I just didn't take any pictures of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what happens.
Same building, just the other side.
Where is this located?
It's just south of Seymour, about a mile south or a mile west. Off on a gravel road. So this is the same, I just converted it to a sepia shade from black and white, just to kind of give it a little different tonality, just to see if there was much difference. Okay, you can go to the next one. Same building again. This time I'm just looking straight south through the building. And again, the next one is just a sepia tone. And I think I've got another here after this. Oh, that's it. Okay.
Yeah, the sepia, I like the sepia on the previous one a little more.
Yeah.
It was sort of not as solid a color,
Yeah,
let's say.
yeah. It's just something fun to try.
Yeah. That's what challenges are for, getting out there and trying things. Okay. Oh, here it is, okay. Okay, how about Mary?
Well, like Al, I didn't have time since the workshop to go really get out and get, so I went through my, one of the Bloomington Coderomers and I go on a road trip every year, and we love to find abandoned things like this. This is in Utah, and she found it on Google Earth. So we make all these little detours hoping that whatever she saw on Google Earth is still there. So, next one. And this was the previous trip when we were heading for Colorado Springs. I'm not sure what the name of the fort was, but I just really liked the covered wagon because it looked like it had been abandoned. So, also it still had a little bit of colored paint on it. Okay. And one year our challenge with the Bloomington Coderomers was rust and junk. So we have 4 of us heading out to the PSA, and we pull in Nebraska. There's this big junkyard that Andy found. So we go to the office and said, can we take pictures of your junk? They said, And we had Marie Williams with us, who was 88 at that point, and so I'm sure they had that topic of those weird 4 ladies who wanted to take pictures of her. But I really like this Ford truck, so. Okay. That's in the same junkyard. It's, I like the way the rust was turning colors. So, okay, next.
You know what that odd-shaped slot is?
I think it's where a door handle used to be or something, maybe? I don't know. And this one had a bullet hole in, I really like that. So, or maybe 2 bullet holes. The Wild Wild West, so. Okay. Okay, this is a PSA in Salt Lake City. We went out on the Palouse, and which is the rolling hills around, no, Spokane, Washington, sorry, when the PSA was there. And I just fell in love with this old abandoned bus that people had been painting. So, sort of like Carhenge and Cadillac Ranch, that they, you know, people, well, more like Cadillac Ranch, they won't let you, Carhenge, they won't let you spray paint anything. So, okay, next. That's the inside. I climbed in because I thought I could see that the ceiling was really neat too. So, okay. I'm not sure where this barn was. I just really liked how the paint was peeling, and there was a hole right where I could get the other window opposite in the hole and of the broken glass. So, okie doke. Another one of our PSA trips. I don't think this one's actually abandoned, though it is wooded up on one side, but it was out in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska, and we just stopped. So, okay.
Interesting, international elevator.
Yeah. And this was the next stop down the interstate. And I thought, wow, that one's not going to be here next time we come by. So, but anyway,
Okay.
somebody should make a map of where all these wonderful things are. So,
That is it. Anything else for
No.
Mary?
I think that was the last one, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. John, would you like to come up here and join me? John and I went to the same 2 places last week, and so we made a collection of images of the 2 places that will.
Well, the key in these 2 places that we picked out is that they were relatively close to our house. We didn't have a lot of time. The seminar was on, webinar was on Saturday. And so we, you know, there's two things you're looking for: accessibility and interest. And yeah, I think the 2 places that we found are sort of somewhat accessible and, you know, not too interesting, but it was good practice to do it, and we'd like to find some more interesting places where you can actually go in. The places we found we mostly have exterior shots rather than interior, and our presenter was inside of a lot of places, and I think that's perhaps a more interesting thing. You know, he was in some factories and schools and things, and it was just too dangerous to go in. The good thing about both of these places is that there were no trespassing signs or anything that looked foreboding, so our risk was low. So anyway, this is just a shot of an old gas station on US 40 between, I guess between Jewett, or between Greenock and Casey on US 40, if you know where that is. I don't know what kind of gas station it was like this for years. Maybe Sinclair, is that, are those with Sinclair?
I think Sinclair has
Yeah,
good.
maybe it was a
Sinclair
Sinclair station.
Could be Sinclair.
Anyway, so that was my shot. This is,
And I took this shot of the front of it, where you could see through to the natural world out back, and liked this angle particularly just because it had all of the internal angles and the interesting texture on the wall there in the back. And John took a picture of it too, but he got me all tangled up in it.
well, I don't know.
There were
It's
weeds
something I always
everywhere.
do when we're out. If I can get you, you know.
Getting in your picture,
I have some of Mary doing things too. She's
and hard
probably
to
seen
get
them.
through,
Anyway.
but
But
it's
you can see, this isn't a place that you want to go into to try to get shots, you know. I mean, if you value your integrity of your body. A lot of sharp metal and glass and so forth. If we were younger, maybe, but,
well, yeah, in spite of all
you
the
know.
weeds and trash, it was kind of interesting, and basically nothing inside.
Yeah.
Now, inside of this is John's picture of if you look through that window that went out to the fields, back into the gas station, this is what you saw.
I just like the disconnected pipe, I don't know, but in the rest.
And I looked this was toward the east, and I looked toward the north, and I think I might have done a little HDR on this one. I tried it a couple times and wasn't real excited about my outcome, but this looks pretty good. I like it with the greens and the textures of this particular shot.
I have to admit, this is mine. Nothing is too interesting, but this was a chimney through a window with some kind of a rag blowing in the breeze, and so just kind of framed.
Things you saw through windows were a good part of our trips.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, anyway. And that's just a blob of something that was lit up by the sun, but
Yeah, it looks nice there with just the sun kind of just shining on it. And this is out the back window of it toward the north, and you can see a couple of farm buildings over there, storage buildings, and the back of a truck on 70, truck is probably on 70, yeah. So. And then I took another one of the end of the building. These are, mind you, these are not the same day, all of them. There were 2 days we were there. Just for a few minutes the first time, and then some the second time. But that's the other end of the building. We saw the first end at the beginning of the show and the highway out in the background, and just nothing. But kind of interesting, though. Oops, any questions about that one? Want to
it's not going to be on your map of interesting places probably there. Anyway,
Run right out and get a
this might be, this is the old Strasbourg School that I guess it was constructed in 1926 or opened in 26, and it closed in about 1970, and then it was a restaurant and bar, and I think then they had a big fire in 2018, so if you go on, really good fire pictures. I guess it caught fire in the morning when some person who bought it was going to renovate it and put in apartments and a restaurant, and the workmen were burning something, and it caught fire and just, basically burned up. And it's another very accessible building from the outside, but the inside was not a place you want to go. There's things hanging down and everything, so. But it was what we found, and so it's where we went. And I don't know, at first I thought this was perhaps District 26, but then after looking on the internet, it was built in 26. I didn't realize that back in those days they did this. I'm not sure. Anyway, it's number 26, and over a door. This is through a window with a shadow. That's why you've got the not a square. You've got sort of a rhombus, I think. Anyway, through a window into a gymnasium that was added. So this wasn't part of the original school, but
But it burned just as well.
everything burned.
Yeah, a lot of evidence of burning here and there. This is looking from the door we just saw here, back toward, or actually over on
The
the
wall over
side
over
of
here,
this,
right?
back toward the main school building. And I really like this shot just because the glow of the sun that came in from the top of the building,
Yeah.
lighting up the areas in windows,
This is part of the auditorium.
and also the old metal on the ground isn't bad either.
This is just one of the ceiling girders. I think almost you could see all this metal stuff in the auditorium area. It must have been supporting the roof and just kind of crashed. And this is one that was it's kind of a nice angle. And looks like it could come down, and you don't want to be standing underneath it. I think when it happens. So,
Looked a little precarious.
there's a door.
And then I kind of looked down into a stairwell and saw this. This is still in the area
Yeah.
of the school building right next to the auditorium. And possibly this is where some of the sun was shining down that we saw before. I kind of like the door. John took this shot.
Oh, yeah, this is just, we both have a picture of almost identical. This is sort of a black and white of this, looking up from the doorway, entrance to the main part of the school. So, and I thought the black and white was more interesting for the shapes and things. So.
Yeah, in black and
These
white,
black and white.
it looks almost a little ominous sometimes. I caught the same place
Oh, yeah, well, a little different angle, but.
at a little different angle and with a lot of sun shining down into it. And it just was glowing in some places. And I did alter it ever so slightly, but
That's a gas stove up at the end of the end of the stairway. I think that's from when it was a bar and restaurant. So
I can't get it too enlarged there.
Yeah.
No.
if you can see.
Anyway, I like that. So gold. And then I took another one of a similar nature, And this one reminded me of something that I saw in Mexico or New Mexico with adobe structures where you would look through to another adobe structure in the sky and maybe see a tree in there. And here we were in Strasburg, Illinois, and got this very, I don't know, almost southwestern look to the lost place. Kind of liked it. And then this is,
This is, it looks to me sort of Romanesque, you know, I'm having a vision of SPQ, or SPQR up there. And, you know, but it's, it just, it was interesting, and there's pieces of glass that apparently didn't burn or didn't get cracked, but those are glass, sharp glass hanging there, and, you know, you don't want to get too close to this place. So, I mean, it's interesting. I'd like to find a place that we could go into. There are places that are around here. There's a place on the way to Paris out before you get to Paris. I think it's on 16, or is it on the other road that goes out there? Anyway, it's kind of
it's
like
on
an
16.
old, yeah, it's an old, quote, insane asylum. And in years past, they used it for Halloween. You know, they kind of have a spook house. And, but that would be interesting if we could get access to that. We just didn't have time to check into that. Also, I remember, Mary, remember the field trip to Indianapolis many years ago? We were there and we just happened to run into another photographer who was from Bloomington, I think, and they had come up to Indianapolis, and one of the things they were doing was there was an old state mental hospital there on the outskirts of Indianapolis, and in fact we had driven past it on the way over, and they said they had somehow gotten permission from, you know, maybe from the Indy Club or whatever, people there to go in and take photos. And I think that might be an interesting thing to do if we could locate, you know, a good place. I think finding, like I said, I think interest and accessibility or permission are, you know, are important, and we just didn't really have time. So anyway, no award winners, but that's what we
Then
have.
we could do a theme, insane asylum, old insane asylums in Illinois and Indiana or something.
Oh no, Martha had some old ones.
Now, I've got two shots that are from the past, let's say, that were among a few that I thought of before I looked into my files to try to find a few. And I thought I'd show you these.
Set a spell.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I wish I knew if this were still here, we're still there where it is. I asked somebody what it was. This is downtown Lerna. And I asked somebody what it was for, and she said, oh, sometimes they meet there. And that was about the only explanation that I got. And when I looked inside, there was a chair and there were a few magazines.
It's a
And
small building to have much of a meeting in.
well, it might have been also maybe a place where people wait for a dial-a-ride kind of things. I don't know, but I like the set spell quite a bit. It's kind of a neat abandoned place, pretty abandoned.
Did you say Lerna?
Lerna. Lerna.
Okay. I don't know where that is, but I've heard of it.
Lerna is between Mattoon and Toledo,
Oh, okay.
if you know where those are. And
Yeah,
then,
technically Lincoln Log Cabin is in Lerna,
Oh, okay.
but it's sort of at the one end of it.
the opposite end of Lerna. Yeah. And then one more. that I dug up and actually changed, changed to black and white, and liked it better. And the idea of an abandoned place. This was a house that was owned by a fairly prominent family of the Greenup area. And it's called the Ward House, because their last name was Ward. And it's right, it was right along Route 40, going west out of Greenup. And then for a while there was that old car there, and maybe there was one more old car there. Now there's pretty much nothing there. So it's kind of nice to have a picture when it's gone.
That's a great shot, Martha.
I did like the angle of this shot, and for a while I didn't like it because it was also rust colored, and the house had been painted a bright red because they were trying to get some money to keep restoring it, but they never did get any help.
Is this one you had for rust and or junk in the I-74 challenge?
Might have.
Yeah, I think so.
Might have had it for the rest of the
But with it so red, you know, everything was red, it just,
Yeah.
looked as good
That
as
was a
black
good
and
call on
white.
switching to monochrome, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, like that.
So-
Okay, so let's see here. Okay, and now, Rita? Let's have you next. I'm not sure they're the order you gave them to me in, but.
I wish I had seen all these photos before I attempted to do this, because I really got a lot of great ideas from you all. And when I saw this challenge, I thought, first I wasn't gonna participate, and I thought, well, why not?
Oh,
You
yeah,
know,
why
'cause I'm
not?
so
Yeah.
Yeah. But I just, started driving around. I think it's either Tolono or Sedoras. And, so I just stopped and, you know, was attracted to that, and, you know, so, anyway, that was one of them.
Oops, there's some dude right there.
And then what I've learned in just beginning to seriously think about photography is, you know, I think of myself as as a person who's very aware, particularly with regard to other people or things, but I have passed by this barn, it's on Madison Curtis, like forever, but I never noticed.
Near the Carl,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I mean, and like I said, I think of myself as observant, but I never, but obviously I wasn't. But I just liked it, and I had another one at home of the roof, you know, and it's just interesting in the middle of, quote, civilization, there it is. So I took it across the street, wasn't waiting, and just waited till the cars, you know, till it was clear enough to take it.
Camera Cube's good like that, leads you places you didn't know that were there.
Yeah. This again, it's either Tolono or Sedoras, but I think if I had it to do over again, I would reposition myself and make the leading line, you know, of the road towards the building. But at the time I was taking this, there was this individual who seemed a little unstable around me, so I had to, in this world of uncertainty, I had to leave very quickly. So, you can go on. And this one, windows, you know, the different textures in the windows, and, I don't know what it was, but, and the different brick.
Guess you haven't been in there, huh?
No, I haven't dined there lately, so.
That would be interesting from the interior because of the glass black windows.
Yeah, might have some neat shadows on the ground and, yeah.
Translucent.
Yeah, that's really a possibility.
Where is this one?
Again, see, there's the doors at Tolona. I can't remember. But I was just driving around. And then this, I think of as like I think it was like a little cafe, so I envision people sitting there and dining and meeting every day for coffee. And, but it's not in use anymore, but, I just think about probably a lot of good times and a lot of good conversations.
Yeah, it kind of makes you want to know the story.
It does. This is another thing I hadn't noticed. It's near, it was a steel company near a refinery, Champaign. And I was sharing it with my husband, and he told me that, there's two of these too. He told me that it was a real vibrant company. It was they did work overseas, and he knew all the history of it. And so, you know, at one time it was, and this is the other one. The other one, I like the sky better, because
Yeah, the sky is great.
the sky, I thought like it captured the mood, you know, more closely resembled the mood, but yeah. And then the next one is you're getting ready to show, that's just another view, but I just, the way he described it, you know, or his remembrances of it, you know, I think about, you know, all the people involved and, you know, all the connections that they had and how successful it was at that time. And,
This is in Champaign?
yes, it's near, I think it was on John's, it was like near the refinery, that place, West
Off of
Champaign.
Kenwood, isn't it?
Kenwood,
Yeah, Kenwood and Springfield area.
Yeah, that's right.
I actually had a relative that worked in there when they were doing their actual, was an active building.
Really?
Yeah, he was a welder.
Huh. Yeah, it must have been, we've been in town for 50 years, so, no, we moved, yeah, we've been in town about 50 years, so during our tenure here, it was quite successful. It must have been in the early years, because I don't remember much about it. And I don't know if there's any more. Was that the last?
No,
one?
that's it.
That's it, okay.
That looks like the place where all the old couches go to die.
Yeah. You're looking for a guest. And I also want to mention, I brought a friend with me, Susan. And
Welcome.
Hi.
Susan takes lovely photos of flowers and landscapes and food. She's a real strong sense.
Well, Susan, most years we go to the Champaign-Urbana Master Gardeners Walk in June, but of course they canceled it this year.
Yeah.
We try to get early access, so we get the early magic light on the flowers and everything.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's
so-
lovely.
Hopefully they'll have it next year.
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, I've saved perhaps the best for last. Jim did a really nice study.
I was impressed with all the images I've seen because some were fresh images, and I must admit that because of COVID, I haven't been able to get out. And so these were from earlier this year. These were 2021. I'll tell you at the end where this was taken, but this is a mechanic shop. and somewhat abandoned in 2021 because of COVID. I like several of you have, I thought I did this in color, but then I converted to black and white, and it just looks more old and more abandoned under the black and white, so I kept it as black and white. And normally this has got a lot of people in, but it was abandoned because of the COVID, and you can see a lot of things go on in this mechanic's shop. Oneida Transport Solutions is the name of the place. Next.
Did you do HDR on that?
No, I didn't.
Okay. I see there's lights on, did you have to turn the lights on?
Yeah,
Were they just on?
no, I didn't do it. No. I may have adjusted the highlights and shadows on it, but not.
But they have the lights on.
Yes.
Do you know if they're back to work or not?
At the end, I'll tell you, and then you can actually go visit this place.
Oh. Okay.
And this is a jet engine they're working on, and again, in color, it's more vibrant, but I thought in black and white it looked kind of.
Yeah, that was science fiction, like,
Yeah.
a spaceship.
Yeah. Under those old trip to the moon things.
Yeah.
And this is like a doorway inside this transportation area. And that's another view. You can see some people here, but another view of this jet engine that's, well, compared to the people, it's probably 15 feet tall by about 30 feet long. And just one of the side walls, kind of insulation in the wall.
Was the lighting pretty much like that, or was it?
Yeah, that's how it was.
I see.
And just another view, a different view from of the jet engine, but you can see the ceilings are up quite high, quite high ceilings. And next. These are the junctions between the rooms here.
So it's gonna whip open and Captain Kirk is gonna come through?
You're getting very close.
Open the pod bay doors.
Yes, that's right.
Change the compression or something going through that thing.
And you can see in color, this is the colors of the jet engine, so it's not brand new looking, but in black, I thought in black and white it looked more
Yeah.
aged.
And it looks like wood holding it up. Is there wood involved?
Wood scaffold, not metal, but.
That's the last one.
That's it.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, this is in Florida, and some of you may have been there before. This is actually the Smuggler's Run waiting line to get in to see Smuggler's Run. So it gave me the idea. It was abandoned because in March there were very few people at this Smuggler's Run, and so it was a great opportunity not to have lines of people up and down. But if you go there, well, if you go there next year, it'll be a lot. And, I don't know if we introduced our new member, Steve, we have a new member, Jim. Is it McCool?
Jim.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining, welcome.
Thank you, everybody, for your.
setting up, Jim, when you talked about LinkedIn Learning through the Champaign Library, did you mean you had to come here
No,
to
you
do
could
that,
do-
or
You
get
could do it, you could do it at home.
you can do it at home?
You could just go to the Champaign Library website
Okay,
and, on the main page, I'll show you again, but, you scroll down to see LinkedIn. And then you click on, now LinkedIn, to use LinkedIn, you have to have an account.
you
Which,
can't use your regular account that you already have, or?
Well, no, you have to have a library account to get into the library system. But once you have a library account at Champaign Public Library,
Uh-huh,
then for free, you can get into LinkedIn. With LinkedIn, you have to have a LinkedIn account because when you're watching these videos, it will keep track of where you left off. So, like if I watch a video for 4 minutes and then I come back and I want to see it again, it'll know exactly where I left off. So, like this one I already finished. It was 7 minutes long. But this one I haven't done. So, the library here at the Champaign Public Library, it's under e-library. So you go to the main page, e-library, and then LinkedIn Learning. And when you click in Start Now, it'll have you set up your LinkedIn account.
okay.
And it's just an account so it can keep track of where you are. But thousands of videos on photography and other things. I mean,
And you just use the number on the back of your card?
to get in, yeah.
Yeah.
I've gone in through the U of I, but so again, if you have questions, you can contact the main library desk by calling them up and they'll walk you through it. But I would highly recommend it. So what I was going to show today was about 10 photos where I used a feature in Photoshop called Content Aware. Content Aware is present in several tools in Photoshop, and I'll show you a few of those tools. But it uses your computer to analyze the image, analyze the pixels around the area in question, and replace them with either similar images, similar pixels to the ones around the one that you want to remove, or somewhat similar. So Content Aware uses the content of your image to replace what you don't want. And I'll show you a few things that I didn't want in my photos. Now, in our contest, you're allowed often to do global adjustments on your images, but sometimes you can't do content-aware changes unless it says photorealistic, meaning the image has to look realistic when you're done. So when it says photorealistic, you can use content-aware to change your image and remove a piece of paper from the ground or a person who's standing next to the person that you want to photograph. Those are allowed, as long as it looks photorealistic. But if it says only generalized changes are allowed, uniform changes, those you can do in Lightroom, but those are not permitted if you do content aware. Here's a shot down my street in Urbana, and I thought it was a great snow shot, except those cars were in the way. So to get rid of those, you magnify the area in question, and here I'm going to use the spot healing brush, which uses content-aware features to replace the pixels of those cars and replace them with similar pixels of what's around the car. Now, I want to make the spot healing brush a little bit small, and just wipe out that car, and this car. And I'll show you, sometimes you need to add cloning brush in order to touch up your image after you, like I want to have these tire tracks go a little bit further into the image. And so you can add cloning to content aware. And the final result here is the street without the cars. And if you really want to make it nice, you can make these tire tracks go further by cloning. And but that's the easiest form of content where it's a spot healing brush. Yes.
I was gonna ask you, what was that tool, did you say, the spot healing?
Right. It's this one over here,
Spot healing brush.
Spot
and
Looks like a little
they call it a spot healing brush. It's good if someone has, let's say you take a picture of someone who's getting married and they have acne on their forehead. If you touch that, you can get rid of the blemish, and it'll smooth the skin so it looks perfect. So it's not good. It's not only good for landscape photos, but you can use it for portraits. But I use it a lot to remove small things that I don't want in the picture.
I'll use it sometimes to take a power line out of the top of the sky, you know. It's
Yeah, it's good for power lines. If you have a picture of a beautiful house and then you have the power lines going in, and you don't want those power lines, you could trace the power line and it'll disappear. Here's a beautiful picture in the Bahamas. And I like the bird on the post, but let's say I just wanted the beach and I did not want that bird. I'm going to show you two things that you can do with this picture, but the easiest way to get rid of the bird is to make the brush bigger than the bird and bigger than the post, and then just trace the bird and post. And again, you have to also get the shadow at the bottom, because if you leave the shadow without the post, it's going to be a little confusing. So again, this is very quick, but and you can touch it up a little bit if you see any spots. It's a very nice way to remove posts, small telephone poles at a distance, and other things like that. But here is an interesting feature that comes with the Photoshop CC. Let's say I want to make this picture a landscape shot, and I want it 2 times wider than the height. I can drag this image over here. And then I can select the black area, which has no pixels at all. I'll use this, it's the quick selection tool. Okay. And then if I fill that with content aware fill, there'll be a line because it only selects right up to that line. So in order to avoid that line effect, I use select, modify, and expand. And I'm going to expand by 10 pixels. So I'm going to make this box, the black box, bigger by 10 pixels. Okay. And you can see it moved over the selected border just a little bit so that there won't be a line when I fill it in. Now, content aware fill can be found under edit. So if you go edit, content aware fill, then the computer will put in green what it's going to fill this area with. So it's showing you what it wants to use. Now, if there was something here, like a person, and you didn't want that person to be put over here, you would just paint out the person with this little brush. The brush is a minus brush. And so it'll allow you, like I don't want trees to be added. So you just paint out the things you don't want the computer to analyze. And you do want this part in here. And it shows you on the right what it's going to look like if you click OK or apply. Now, the bird I took out, I'm not sure why it went back in, but as far as this added part that we just added, we're going to say OK. And then, as you can see, it created this whole new part of the ocean that wasn't there before. So again, that's content-aware fill, and you can see it does a very nice job of now, it copied my watermark, and in order to get rid of it, you can go down here, and then, because I have this one lit, yeah. Okay. But, so again, that's content aware, and you can change the size of your image. Here's a water fill I took in August. This was at Kings Canyon, but there were 2 people in the water, and I didn't want those people in the water. So the way to get rid of those people is to highlight them and then use the magic wand, magic selection tool, to select the people and their bag. And then again, if I just try to fill that, because part of their skin is right at the edge, I will expand this by going to select, modify, and expand. And maybe 5 pixels. And so it's going to replace these people with the area around it. And so we'll again go to Edit, Content Aware Fill. And it's going to show you what it would look like. And again, if I look over here, I don't want any of these rocks included in the replacement because the people are in the water. So I'm painting out the rocks. I don't want the computer to use the rocks to replace the pixels. And then if I want to add some water up here, I can use the Alt key and press Add. And then if I like that, I press Apply and OK. And sometimes I'll go in here and I'll look at it, and if it's not perfect, I'll use the clone tool and just clone a little bit of water over the area that I had the people. And if you look at the image, we got rid of those people. So originally, the people were there, and then now they're gone. Okay, here's a wedding photo, my daughter getting married. And this is over at a Boneyard Creek, and there's a building behind, which I didn't want to have there. So to get rid of the building, I would just highlight the window that I don't want in. And then you could try, the easier, faster way to do it, content aware fill, is just use fill. And then use content aware fill. And it'll fill it with pixels that are close in size to those areas. Another part of the building that I don't want in, so I'm going to use content aware fill. And again, it's pulling up the branches of the trees below up into the top. It's using the green area here to pull those pixels. And if you like it, then you can get rid of it. So again, this image I cropped and removed things on the ground, but as far as the background, I didn't want the building. So it allows you to get rid of the building and see just the people. Here's Brookfield Zoo, and I like the bear. I like this person in the picture who's taking a picture of the bear, but I don't want this head in the photo. So again, to get rid of the head, highlight it, and again, we're using this magic wand here. It's called Quick Selection Tool. Then to expand, we use Select, Modify, and Expand. And we can move the pixels, maybe 10 pixels out from the head. And here we're going to use a different tool. We're going to use the Patch tool. But we're going to use the Patch tool in the content-aware manner. So the Patch tool, you can slide the image of the head up, and the pixels will come down from above. And so you'll watch as I do, but this is using content-aware, but in the form of a patch. And I'm watching the edge of the bear to make sure I get the bear lined up. But there you can see the bear, you can see the water, and the head's gone out. I don't like this area, and so I'm going to use the same thing. I trace that and then pull that up. And if you play with it, you can eventually get it exactly the way you want by removing slight imperfections, and then so now I have the bear and the person taking a picture of the bear, but not a head in the middle. Here, also Brookfield Zoo. I don't like this part over here. I don't like, there was a lot of wood structures. I like the bear's in good focus. I like this, but I don't like this part. So again, I'm going to just select this area here, and then I'm going to use the content-aware fill. And you can see, if I don't do anything, it's showing me on the right what it's going to look like. I don't like this area up here, but I think it's combining the pixels here and throwing them back up here over to this area. So I'm going to clone those out, but I do like the fact that the gate goes over. So I'm going to accept this, and then to get rid of these pixels up here, I'm going to use the cloning brush. And so I think it makes a better image with the, here's the before and then here's the after. Same here, a zoo animal, but to select here, you could use, there's a number of selection things that you can get, try them out, but I use this, it's called polygonal lasso because this is kind of a polygonal structure. And then we want to get rid of that part of the image. You could just go to content-aware fill, just to fill and then use content-aware. This is how Photoshop used to do it before you had the green parts. Because there's not many other pixels here that I don't like. You see, it took some of the fur and moved it over. So you could either brush it out or go back, go to content-aware fill. This allows you to pick which pixels it's going to use. And you can see it's got the green over the animal. We don't want the animal at all included in the fill part. So this allows you to paint out the pixels you don't want, and it will just use the pixels that are in green in order to replace them. And you can see over here, it did a very nice job getting rid of the branch and not including the fur if you use the content-aware fill with the ability to select the pixels.
Although the fur might have been, the expression on his face might have been because his fur was flying. That's some expression he's got, or
Yeah.
she.
Yeah, he's not happy about having his picture taken. Many of you have been to the Bean, and this is at 6 in the morning. It's almost impossible to
Yeah.
get the picture of the bean without people in it. And so, even if you can get there at 6 in the morning and you try to take pictures of the bean without people, one thing you're going to find is that your own image is in the picture. So, even though there aren't a lot of people, here I am with my tripod, taking a picture of the bean. And so it's small enough I could just leave it there, but if I want to be a perfectionist, I want to get rid of that picture of myself. I use the content-aware fill. I would add a few pixels to the expanse, maybe 5 pixels. That's maybe a little bit too much. And then we're going to fill that space with content-aware fill. And this is how it does it. Now, I've been using auto fill. There's rectangular fill and custom fill. If you take a video class on this, you'll learn the differences. Color adaptation depends on how much color there is. Here I'm watching the image that I just worked on. I'm looking at the lines. I want those lines to be as good as straight. They're not, and I've done this before, and so I realized that it's not possible to get those lines perfect. I removed myself, but in order to get the lines back the way I want them, I would add the cloning and select and again, I would take more time, but you get the gist that you can remove a person, and if you look back at the original image, you could do that with each person and just have the being.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to get rid of that building on the left, too.
This one, yeah, because it's, this is a wide angle lens to get the being in all in one,
Yeah.
but it distorts the building at an angle. So I use, in Lightroom, I think I use transform to transform the building more straight, but yes, yeah, it would be nice to get rid of it. And I think, there's a nice, this is taken in Tokyo, a nice picture of a Japanese couple, but there's a guy here in the picture. And if you're doing street photography, you're almost gonna always find someone you don't want in your photo. And so, in order to get rid of people on the street that you don't want, content-aware fill is really the way to go, because it does a fine job. If you look over here, well, it's picking up some pixels that it's not supposed to be picking up, so I'm erasing them. And this would do a fine job, except that we should have expanded the pixel to get rid of the shadow. So again, but it's easy enough to get rid of the people. And this is the last image. I like this. This is the addition to the Art Museum in Chicago. But if you don't like this taxi in the image, you can highlight the taxi, including the shadow. You can expand the selection by modify, expand, and let's say 5 pixels. And then you can use the patch tool to slide the curve forward. And I do it slowly, watching the curve to keep the curve straight until the taxi's out of the area. And again, it's just another example of things you can do with content aware. I think it's a nice feature to have. I think if you try it, you'll like it, and you can learn more about it by LinkedIn. Any questions about content aware, or any other comments that other people use it for?
No, that's cool.
All right. Steve, you wanted to talk about maybe our website and in fact, many of you have seen our website, but we don't have a social media chair this year to manage the website. You can look at our past shows, Best in Show, you know, the images from last year. They're all on the website, but it takes somebody to put those on there. Our past competitions are on the website. From last year, so hopefully this was a nice feature for many of you, but this year we don't have anybody who's interested in doing it yet.
As Jim mentioned, we are still short an officer. We need, we'd like to have a vice president at some point to assist me, and the vice president would typically help with the new members and so on. And then as far as committees and other things we need done, the social media and the website is a big one. I know Gorkum is assisting us on Facebook, is that correct?
Instagram.
Instagram, okay.
I haven't taken over the technology.
Yeah, I had it backwards. We could use some help on some of the social media, and especially the website, if anybody is familiar with using Squarespace and updating websites, we could use the help. We do have other committee positions open as well, so contact one of the leadership, and we can explain more about what the duties would be and whether you're interested or not. So, and I do appreciate everyone bringing the images in. I think we had a a good set of images to look at, good work. And I want to thank Jim for giving us a little 15-minute or so presentation on the Photoshop. There's some things I need to try I've never tried before, so.
And I mentioned the free Photoshop lecture that's coming up next week.
Okay,
Maybe we could send them.
yeah, we'll be sending out a link. Ken made us aware of a Photoshop summit that's coming up, and we will be sending the link out on that through email. It is free. I think it's a 3 or 4 day event, and then if you sign up, then you have 48 hours to watch all of the lectures. If you don't, if you feel up to it, you can also do what they call a premium or lifetime, I can't remember exactly what they call it. For $99, you have unlimited access to all of the information and the speeches that they have. So that's an option too. A lot of learning, and it's all Adobe people or Adobe experts. And for just a little, I looked at it before I came today. It's quite a conference. So I'll get that out on the email within the next day or so. And I appreciate everybody coming, and thank you for our new member. We look forward to seeing your photos and having you participate with us. Thank you.
Can I make just a quick?
Sure.
question?
Go ahead.
We will be gearing up for Best in Show. That's our annual, basically public participation. Best in Show is now in its 21st year, and it's the show that we put up all the photos from the public at Lincoln Square. We have them judged by external professional photographers, and we get, in the past we've had 300 to 500 photos entered by the public in several categories. I've been the chair of the Best in Show now for several years. It's kind of fun, and really as collectively as a club, there isn't really a whole lot we need to do other than once I get, we call it a poster, but it's really more of a handout. We like to post these around town at retail places and what have you, so that the word gets out. We used to have more support from the News Gazette. We don't really, they want us to pay for advertising anymore, so we don't, but they are good enough to continue to publish the winners on the Sunday of the event. And then, of course, like give our sponsors some of these to spread around as well. So that would be one thing I would help with, is having people send these out and take them around and plaster them around once I get it made. That's another thing, is that in the past, we've always had the entry form and what have you on our website. So I hope we can do that in some way, so that people can come to our website to find the entry form. So I'll keep you posted. Probably in a couple of weeks, though, I'll have some of these ready to take out. The actual competition itself is at the end of January, 1st of early February, so we've got several months to go. I've got to pick the judges too, so. Anyway, that'll be coming up. That's okay.
Okay. Thanks everyone for coming. Thank you.
I'll say hello,